Hello everyone and welcome to a short scrap mechanic video. So recently, I've been getting a lot of feedback from a very loud minority on the way that I've been criticizing scrap mechanic in my videos and live streams. And I want to be clear that scrap mechanic is an early access game, so there's going to be hundreds upon hundreds of little individual things that we could point to and say, oh, this could improve, oh, this could improve. And I think overall, I'm going to give Axolot the answer right away right now. I think overall, if Axolot wants to avoid all of those little tiny criticisms, they can take a look at the structure of their development pathway. Instead of adding things to the game like one by one, little by little, I think a reconsideration of their entire programming structure is in order so that they can understand that they're creating a larger object called scrap mechanic, and then all the little things are pieces of that larger object. Instead of adding things like one by one to an existing game, I'm not exactly sure how else I can describe it other than that very confusing way, but that's the way that sort of makes sense to, the programs that you make. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about one tiny bug in scrap mechanic that's been with scrap mechanic for years and years. I think everybody knows it, and I'm going to show in this video how you could code a programming solution to completely resolve this issue. But it might be one of those things that Axolot just decides never to fix. So, what is the thing that I'm talking about? Well, the thing that I'm talking about is the paper-thin ground collision in scrap mechanic. So here I am in my elevator world, so I can quickly go on up. All right, I think we're pretty tall enough. Oh yeah, we're definitely tall enough. So if I jump off from a really tall height, I'm gonna be catching a lot of velocity downwards, and this might be enough to actually send me through the ground entirely. Yep, there it is. So this is the paper-thin ground collision in scrap mechanic, and it's been with the game for years and years and years, and this is the solution that the developers have put in place. If you go through, you just teleport back up and say, hey, you're playing the game wrong, stop that. Is this playing the game wrong, though? Is this playing the game wrong? I built a super tall building, I don't know, I'm pretty proud of that. And this also works, too, if you have something, like, really, really heavy. Over here, I just have the ridiculously heavy blocks. Just for something, like, extra heavy, but it also applies to, with, like, very large creations, they dig into the ground a little bit, too. Just depending on what you build, you gotta watch out for... Like, if you build a house, but then you put the entire house on 4 tiny pipes, those pipes have a chance of just going into the ground. It's kind of weird to think about. So the same thing happens if you have really, really heavy objects, too. Oh god, that was a lot heavier than I thought it was. So as you can see, it just sinks right into the ground. Now, I actually heard on the grapevine that this was actually something intentional with scrap mechanic, where if you have a very heavy vehicle, your wheels are supposed to dig into the dirt a little bit to give you a sense of driving in the mud, or having some different kinds of friction in the ground collision. So I can sort of see with this giant cube, if this cube was like a wheel and it's just way too heavy, it's digging all the way into the mud, burying itself forever. So that's probably the reason why Axolot never actually wants to fix this ground collision, because if they do, then it might make the ground collision rock hard, like very, very hard, so that no wheels are going to dig into the ground, nothing like this is going to dig into the ground. So now let's go ahead and show you a programming solution that would actually guarantee that objects do not go through the ground or each other. I'm not sure if Axolot's actually interested in something like this, because it would make their ground very rock hard, rock solid, and that changes the gameplay a little bit, and they might not want that. But still, I want to show this programming solution just to get people thinking about things in a different way. It's actually a lot easier than you think to prevent something from going through something else. So this is a test that I coded in, like a very simple collision test that I coded in JavaScript, and it runs straight up in HTML. So like you don't need to install anything, you don't need to compile anything, it's just a simple scripting collision test. Okay, so at the top you can see that there's 2 slow-moving circles, and at the bottom that you can see there's 2 very fast-moving circles. So this is a very, very simple physics, quote-unquote physics collision test. And in the center you can see that there's a little red line. It's a tiny, tiny 1-pixel line. So the very basic physics collision test that I coded is the exact same as a lot of games, where it just checks each object for each physics frame and sees if it's colliding with something. If it is, then it applies a reverse in momentum and then sends the object back the other way. So this is applied to all of the borders of this area, and also this line in the center. So there might be some people wondering, okay, why are the top two objects colliding with a line, but not the bottom two objects? And, well, if you look really closely, I don't know if you can actually see, maybe it's happening a little bit too quickly, but they're moving across 50 pixels every physics frame, and then they appear at the next 50 pixel segment over, whereas these top circles are moving a lot slower. As a matter of fact, I also coded this so that you can spawn in more circles. So let's go ahead and spawn a bunch right here. And if they all move really, really fast. But if we click a bunch here, then you can see that they all sort of overlap on each other. And now you can sort of see what's happening with the crazy physics in scrap mechanics. Sometimes an object will go through, and sometimes it won't, and it really depends on where their frames line up. So if you line them up separately over here, so if you see, if the position of the object happens to get really, really lucky before and after the collision line, it's not actually going to collide. But if the object itself is detected going through the collision line, then it will collide and reverse its momentum. This is also a little bit of an inaccurate collision because the point of contact for a sphere on a surface is supposed to be on the right side of the circle, not somewhere in the middle. But that's another story. That's a whole other story of accurate collisions. So let's get into how to fix this then. I actually have this test button down here. If you just press test true, you can automatically see, well, okay, I glitched something out, but you can automatically see that the top two circles immediately start colliding against the line in the center. And same with all of these circles down here, they're changing color because they're colliding. And you might also notice that there's a tiny, tiny pink, like magenta line that's just appearing. And if you look really, really closely down here at these circles, that line represents its current position plus its future position. And that's all that it is to add to the game physics loop, is just to check, not to actually check like accurate collisions per object, but actually just to do a very, very simple calculation of if the object is here and it has the current momentum, where is it going to be next frame, right? And so if you just draw a one-dimensional line in between those two positions and then see if anything's crossing that line, then you know it collided with something in between frames. So this is actually a very simple way to improve collisions in a physics sandbox, and it doesn't actually cost too much because you don't actually have to render anything extra, you don't have to calculate too much. All the information that you have is already there, so it's literally like one line of code, and you can improve collisions. So I think the big question then is if Axolot's actually going to fix the problematic collisions in the game depends on whether, like, how they see wheels spinning in dirt or something. Like, the plans that they have for their game and the experience that the player should have with playing Scrap Mechanic. Maybe it depends on a very loose ground collision. Hard to say. But this is one of those things that, players have seen for years and years, and, Axolot has just never bothered really to fix it, and it seems like something that it's really, really easy to fix. So it seems to suggest that Axolot might never fix something like this, but I think it would be a lot more helpful for the community if Axolot actually made some kind of a statement like this, like, yeah, we're never going to fix the ground collision, because then people can enjoy it for what it is, instead of trying to, help Axolot by trying to improve their own game. We can just enjoy it for the quirky physics that it has. Putting bunches and bunches of circles here. And now we're going to turn off the test. Turn off the collision test. And see how many get through. Oh gosh. Alright. That seems like less than half actually, so not bad. Anyway, like I was saying, I think this is something that's actually really, really easy to fix, but because Axolot hasn't fixed it for a really, really long time, it seems to imply that they're not going to fix it. That's something that's a little bit of a point of confusion within the Scrap Mechanic community, I feel like anyway, where some players are trying to help Axolot by pointing out the things that they could improve, and other players are just accepting of the quirky physics that the game came with, and want to have fun with it the way that it is. And me personally, I think either way is fine. I think it would just be helpful if Axolot made some kind of a statement to say, yeah, we're never planning on fixing that. Or if they say, yeah, maybe we'll fix that in a future update or something. Like, I think that sort of thing will settle a lot of debates within their own player base. I think making a statement like that to give some sort of direction to their own community might actually prevent people from seeing someone make a criticism of Scrap Mechanic or the way that it was programmed and immediately leap to the conclusion that, you know, they're hating on Axolot or something. Like, that's far from what we're even talking about. That's not even, not at all close to, no, there's other reasons to hate Axolot. Anyway, that's all that I had to show you guys for today, was just something that I programmed to sort of explain what I was talking about very casually in live streams, and it seemed to trigger a lot of viewers. So hopefully I've, helped to clear out, some of the misinterpretations of what I was saying, and, I don't know. We'll see what Axolot does with their ground collision. It's not really my place to say. I am curious, though. Let me know what you think about videos like this, where I'm actually talking about something a little bit more, programmatic, and I'm actually, like, showing something that I coded just to explain what I'm talking about. I don't know. Let me know what you think about videos like this if you want to see more stuff like this, because I can do all kinds of criticisms like this, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I even want to do that. You know what I mean? So let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'll see you guys very soon for another video.